It was a cold and quiet night when I found the first clue. A single red thread, no longer than a few inches, tangled in the buttons of his coat. I didn't own anything red. My fingers trembled as I held it, 1,000 thoughts rushing through my mind. My husband. My gentle and devoted Rajiv had kissed me goodbye that morning with the same warmth he always did. But now the thread whispered something I wasn't ready to hear. He might not be the man I thought he was. I told myself not to overthink. People pick up threads and lint everywhere. But that night, as he slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the thread, its bright color mocking me in the dim light. My heart was heavy, but I brushed it off. Love isn't about doubting. Love is about trust. That's what I believed. That's what I had always believed. But the signs didn't stop there. A faint trace of perfume lingered on his scarf one day, a scent too floral, too exotic, and too unfamiliar to belong to me. He had smiled at me as he handed me the scarf, unaware that I noticed. "Keep it safe," he had said, his eyes warm, his tone steady. Each sign was like a thread in a web, weaving itself into my heart, pulling me closer to something I didn't want to face. I began to feel like a stranger in my own life. Was I imagining it? Was my mind playing tricks on me? Yet, the clues didn't lie. One evening, when he said he was working late, I decided to follow him. My heart raced with guilt and fear. Was this betrayal, spying on my own husband? But the ache in my chest was stronger than the guilt. I needed to know. I saw him at the cafe. He sat at a small corner table, and across from him was a woman. She was elegant, her hair falling in soft waves, her laughter like music. She leaned in close, her hand resting lightly on his. My knees felt weak, my breath caught. I wanted to run, but my feet were frozen. For days I didn't confront him. I couldn't. I watched him more closely, analyzing every word, every gesture. I began to notice the way his phone buzzed late at night, the way he smiled at messages he didn't share. My heart was breaking, but I couldn't stop myself. One night when he was asleep, I unlocked his phone. My hands trembled as I scrolled through his messages. There she was, Amara. Her name felt like fire on my tongue. The messages were casual at first, but the more I read, the more I realized there was something deeper. Yet there was a strange tenderness in his words. He wasn't cruel or dismissive of me. He spoke of guilt, of confusion, of love that felt divided. My tears fell silently, soaking into the pillow. How could he love someone else? And yet, how could he still love me? I decided to meet Amara. It was a bold decision, one that terrified me, but I needed answers. She agreed, surprising me. When I saw her, I understood why he was drawn to her. She wasn't just beautiful, she had a warmth, a kindness that was undeniable. But there was pain in her eyes too. We talked for hours. She told me about how they met, how he had confided in her about feeling lost, about feeling like he wasn't enough. She didn't know he was married at first. When she found out, she wanted to walk away, but by then they had fallen into something neither of them could escape. I should have hated her, but I didn't. I saw myself in her, the same love, the same heartbreak. I saw a woman who was caught in the same storm, trying to hold on to something that wasn't truly hers. When I confronted Rajiv, it wasn't with anger but with sadness. His face crumbled when I asked him, tears filling his eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said. "You're my everything. But I feel like I've failed you. I've failed myself." We sat in silence for what felt like hours. The weight of the truth hung between us, heavy and suffocating. But in that silence I realized something. Love isn't perfect. It's messy, complicated, and sometimes it breaks you. But it's also forgiving, understanding, and resilient. I didn't know what the future held for us, but I knew one thing: love wasn't about possession. It was about choice. Every day, every moment we choose to stay, to fight, to heal. And I chose him, not because it was easy, but because love is worth fighting for. As we rebuild, I remind myself of this: love isn't about never making mistakes. It's about finding your way back to each other when you do.